Hello and welcome to another Minecraft tutorial. This time we're going to tackle a pet project of mine that I've been working on for the past few weeks. A functional two-mode King of the Ladder game using only command blocks. It's been a lot of fun. It's pretty complex, but hopefully I can run through the basics and give you guys a rudimentary understanding of how it works. Before I get into how the King of the Ladder functions, I'm going to go over all of the commands that I use throughout the whole minigame. The first one most of you probably already know. It's the /say command, which is a server-wide broadcast. In the multiverse it is really server-wide, so I tend to not use it that much. The second one is probably my favorite one. It's a bit complicated to do on your own, and I can't actually. So I use an online generator for this, which is really useful, and I'll link it in the description. But tell raw is a new 1.7 command that allows you to use JSON coding to put different colors and effects and things on messages. Now this one's a bit long, you can't really see it, but the tell raw tells every person within 70 blocks of me that a round of chicken roulette has begun and the color is dark green. So I press it, and there it is. Spread players is also pretty self-explanatory. It spreads players around a central point. So here I have it spreading from my current position, well, roughly my current position, with a minimum of 5 blocks away and a maximum of 20, not respecting teams, and it's for all players within 100 blocks of me. So if I press this, it teleported me to a random place over here. And I press it again, it teleports me somewhere random. Set block is also pretty self-explanatory. It sets a block for a certain coordinate, which is just over here behind the block, to 98, which is stone brick, and then damage value of 1, which is cracked stone brick, or mossy. Test 4 is another pretty self-explanatory one, and it has so many different complicated uses, and it can work with many different commands. So a basic use of test 4 is testing if a player is within 5 blocks of the command block. Press it, the comparator goes off, and it pushes the piston out. The scoreboard is basically in the same league as that. It's a whole nother system to learn, but the scoreboard is how you obviously keep score. But this specific command adds 1 point to the scoreboard's CTF for the closest person. So you see in the tab list, that is my score currently. I press this, I get 1. No matter how far I am away, because there's no range value. I press it every time, and I get a point. Scoreboards are a whole nother beast to tackle, but I definitely suggest it if you want to go into minigames or adventure maps. Thankfully, the next is another simple one. Effect. Gives a player a status effect. So right now, this will give me, this is completely arbitrary, it gives the closest player, I believe this is night vision for 10 seconds, night vision 15, or it's a weakness rather. Game mode is another easy one. It sets game mode between survival, creative, and adventure. So if I do 2, it sets me to adventure mode. Can't break blocks, can't do anything. Summon is another one of those new commands that everybody loved when it came out, and it's such a great command. You can summon different entities, including thrown potions, custom mobs with custom health, custom effects, custom names. It's just so great for adventure maps. But I'm just going to summon Buster here. I set him with max base of 1 health, so he has half of a heart of health. His custom name is Buster, and we can see his custom name. And he is spawned 10 blocks above this area. So I've summoned another one, there we go. If we go back to my weakness effect, and I try to punch Buster over here, I'm not going to deal any damage to him until the weakness runs out in 2, 1, 0. Now he dies. Play sound is another new one. You're able to play a sound file and it has to be formatted the correct way. If you look at the Minecraft wiki, it will tell you the exact formatting for any sound that you want to play. But this plays the Ender Dragon sound. I can hardly even hear that. That's unnerving sound. Almost as unnerving as the Wither. If you don't already know what the teleport command is, I don't have high hopes for you learning command blocks here. Basically, teleport command teleports person to coordinates, teleport. See, it just teleported me straight into the air. Simple enough. Spawn point sets your spawn to a certain coordinate, which in this case is that block. So if I set it here, and I die, I will go, well, close enough, I will go to whatever my spawn point is. And the final one I used was the clear command, which just by itself will clear everything from my inventory. However, if I want to adapt it, say I want to get rid of all the buttons in my inventory, but not the dropper. So if I take the ID of the button, which is 77, and I add it to the end here, and I press the button, it gets rid of all the buttons from my inventory, but only the buttons. But those are all the commands I'm using for King of the Ladder. I think that's it for Buster and I here. I think we can now dive into the first part of the King of the Ladder. Well, as the sign suggests, there's a lot of command blocks here. But, even just to keep myself sane as well, I also labeled every single one of them, so I don't have to go searching through every single command block to find a specific command. I can just read the signs. So if you ever work with command blocks, I really suggest this organizational strategy. If you're not familiar with King of the Ladder, it is a game where a bunch of people climb up a ladder, and they all try to be at the top. Now, I did a little twist on mine. I've seen this variation with the break and the ladder on the side, and I think that adds a lot of fun to it, as well as the ice blocks for limited mobility. But basically, you climb up to the top, and you try to hold the top, people climb up. It's a pretty simple game mode, but I decided to make it complex since it has such a simple base. Another organizational strategy is the fact that a repeater, which powers one command block, will power the two adjacent as well as one above where this sign is. So you can have a lot of condensed command blocks being powered at the same time. This also allows for better tiering and making sure that some command blocks will power before others, just to make sure that everything works correctly, while still keeping it compact. The first commands that happen here are beginning a weakness effect. That is not a weakness effect. And that is a classic example of why I need to be more precise with my signs. So this one does start the weakness effect, but it places a redstone torch over there to start it, and I'll get to that in a second. But the purpose of the weakness effect is that King of the Ladder it is a PvP game, but it isn't explicitly PvP where you go out and your aim is to punch somebody to death. So I gave the weakness effect so that your punches really don't deal that much damage. It sets everyone's game mode to survival, which everyone should be anyway, but it's useful for people like me who are sometimes in creative when the game starts. And it sets the spawn point to a place in the wall in the arena, so that when you die, you don't get sent all the way back to the server spawn. You get spawned right back into the arena. And this gives you a message, tells you to go, that the game has begun, first person to 100, or is time mode, so first person, or the person who is at the top at the end of 5 minutes wins. This places a redstone torch, the set block command, just like the other one, right here. And that will toggle these repeaters, which toggle a piston here, and an inverted piston here. And what that does is that it pushes these up and stops any new games from being created once a game's in progress, and it opens up the Join Current Game button to allow late arrivals into the game as well. And this, using the handy summon command, summons an item, a drop block of stone, just because it's ID 1 and that's easy, 9x in this direction. So that spawns it right here, right above this cobweb. And I'll get to that in a second, but that is a very, very handy tool for timers. So if we go back to here, see the Redstone Torch uses the same thing as before. It sets the block to these coordinates, x, y, and z, and then this is the value of it. If you wanted to put data values, you'd put them afterwards. But this Redstone Torch will start powering this clock, which gives a constant weakness effect here. So here is the weakness, this is the status ID for weakness, this is the duration in seconds, and this is the amplifier. It works really weird because an amplifier of 0 gives you an effect level of 1. So say if you wanted to give yourself invisibility, if you put a 1 there, it would give you invisibility 2, which is a mistake I made downstairs, but I think it's too funny to fix. I also added the hide particles tag to it because those particles can get really intrusive. So if I go here and start this clock, which is actually a really nice clock, you can set it to be pretty toggleable. I set it to the maximum delay possible for 4, but obviously you can extend it yourself with other repeaters. So I start this, and as long as this is powered, this clock will go. Now if I set this to full delay for 2 of them, and then 1 delay for the other 2, it's approximately 1 second, which is something that I take advantage of over there. But the precise timing for this one isn't really as necessary. But as you can see, every so often, it'll power that, and then update my weakness effect. The range is set to 70 blocks. So anybody within 70 blocks in any direction of this command block will get affected by this, which effectively covers the whole King of the Ladder arena, which works perfectly. But yeah, I definitely, if you're doing things that require redstone clocks, I definitely suggest this type of a clock, as opposed to one that's constantly running anyway. Because 1, it runs the risk of burning out, and 2, it doesn't lag your world or your server whatsoever. Only when it's running. So it's only working when it's needed. Otherwise, it's off. Unless I lag. So if this command block was to be powered, the one that starts the timer by summoning the block, if I power it here, watch over in the corner over there, a stone block will appear. Now this stone block will fall into a cobweb. It takes almost exactly 24 seconds for a thrown item to fall through a cobweb. So the way I have this timed is that it lasts exactly 4 minutes until it falls all the way down and activates this pressure plate here. Now this pressure plate will activate 3 different command blocks. 1 gives you a message in chat for a 1-minute warning. Another, just because I wanted to, adds the Ender Dragon Growl as well. This then continues the game. So, since this is a 5-minute game, and this lasts 4 minutes, this gives you a 1-minute timer at the end. It's another summon command, and I had to calculate exactly how far away this had to be, but it summons a block this many away relative to the command block. By powering this command block here, a block will be summoned relative to the command block's position, which would be up here. So it's the block above it, so it falls into the cobweb and goes through 2 24-second cobwebs. and that leaves a little bit left for the minute, but it isn't too big of a deal. It's as precise as I could get it, with the fickle increments of 24. But as soon as this reaches the bottom, it will start to trigger a chain reaction of command blocks. Each of them plays the XP orb sound, as well as announces in chat to everybody within 100 blocks a countdown of the last 5 seconds of the game before it ends. And this is the whole end. See, there we go. And it's going to do that, and it's going to teleport me away, most likely. There we go. Now, to get the timing right for all this endgame stuff was pretty daunting. It was a lot harder than the ones to begin the game. But the first thing that I do is I use the teleport command with the parameter that they need to be the closest person, nearest player to this coordinate, which is about 4 blocks above the top of the, or maybe even 2 blocks above the top of the King of the Ladder, and whoever is the closest within 10 blocks gets teleported to these coordinates, which is the winner's podium. At the same time, it gives the endgame message of game over. Next, triggered, is the endgame sound, the level up sound. This sets this redstone torch that was triggered at the beginning back to air so that the timer stops. This block does a say command, because currently in 1.7 the only way to have a player's name be said in a message has to be through the say command, which is server-wide. But that isn't the worst thing in the world, but it is fixed in 1.8. But what this does is it, once again, uses the same parameters. It takes whoever is at every person who is within 2 blocks of the winner's podium. There will be a message to the entire server that says that they've won the game. This I will get to later as well. It is the boosts down below, which is another system and is used in both game modes. After about a second of delay, everybody else within 69 blocks of the area, because 70 blocks reaches up to the spectator area, will be teleported over to where the winner's podium is. This block sets the redstone torch back from the beginning, right here, below here, that was powering the pistons, back to air. It couldn't be placed because I didn't actually place the torch to begin with, but it sets it back to air so that new games can be played again. This will clear any residual effects, which isn't as important with the timer because that ends within like 8 seconds of it running out, but it does impact some of the boosts that last a while down below. The final thing that happens, because people are having some problems with this, was that everybody in the area, their spawn point is set back to spawn. Which is an unfortunate thing because if you die at the end, I had the spawn point set back here, but if you died at the end and you respawned, instead of respawning back here or going to the lobby area, you would get sent all the way back to spawn, which kind of sucks. So I set a delay to this. I might even make it even more if people start having problems with it, but that's pretty much the only way I could solve that. And both sides of the game trigger this as well. It removes the pressure plates at the end of the boosts, and I'll also go into that later. And that's all for this episode. Next episode I will go into the score mode, which is personally my favorite, as well as the boosts down below. I hope command blocks really aren't too daunting. They definitely were to me at first, and it's pretty evident in some of my other first creations of command blocks, but practice, 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 and they just have so many applications, and they're a must for anybody who wants to learn how to make adventure maps or make mini games or things like that without having to go into coding a plugin, which honestly I would suggest over this because they definitely can be more stable, but whatever floats your boat. Until next time, see ya.